Good evening, everybody. It's Friday again, finally, and July 13th, Friday the 13th, 2018. And it's my wedding anniversary eve. So everything went well that day, and it's still hanging in there 34 years. So uh, Friday the 13th must not be bad for everybody. Works for me. We had one hell of a party that night. Tonight, hopefully we'll have one hell of a good show, and we can talk about the Nats, which is in full swing right now. In fact, going to be wrapping up, and if I understand right, Sparky qualified for the top 20 fly-off, which I believe is tomorrow. And so I hope some of our visitors can help me with updating on Nats news. There's some videos and scores, and it's all scattered about, and I'll try to put it together and tell you what I can about it. And we've got 4 viewers on YouTube. Bob Bishop is the first one. Hey, Bob, glad to have you. And as usual, if you're subscribed to the Stunthangar YouTube forum and you've got your notification bell turned on, then you get notified when this video goes live. And to get the link to come into the video, you need to know that you have to be logged into Stunthangar to see the live streams at the bench thread with the link to both the video to participate live and also the chat box if you'd like to participate in the YouTube chat box. And in the chat box is the super chat $sign at the bottom. We appreciate anybody that can donate a little bit to help Sparky keep the server fees up and keep the show on and keep the show free. And if you can't donate, that's fine. If you just don't want to, that's fine too. Everybody's welcome to come in and join us, and we just talk about control line airplanes primarily, but any kind of model airplanes, aeromodeling, any kind of modeling there is, planes, trains, and automobile, boats, or whatever you do for fun, whether it's full-size equipment too. We're ready to talk about anything you want to, as long as it's not politics and geezer gripes. We do limit geezer gripes to about a 10-minute session so that it doesn't get too boring for those of us who don't want to watch all that stuff. And right now, I'm just hanging out waiting for people to arrive on the live video feed so we can sit back and have a conversation, get in the groove for a Friday night. I'll be here till about midnight or maybe a little later if the conversation is going well. It seems to frequently go well in the last hour or so. Anyway, so remember that if you watch reruns, all of them are posted on the Stunthangar YouTube channel. And if you can't watch it at the time we are on here performing, then you can always go to the Stunthangar, that's 2 words, spelled with an A, Stunthangar, video YouTube channel, and find us in the reruns and see what we talked about. And it's easier if you kind of skip through. Usually the show improves as it goes along. Second half of the show is usually where we really get in a groove, laid back, and have fun talking. And speaking of video viewers, hey, Ron, welcome, Ron Hess. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing great.
Good. Well, end of the week. What'd you do for fun this week? Anything?
I'm working on a RC AT6, 60 inches, finishing the thing off.
What's it called again?
I'll fly it tomorrow.
I'm going to turn your volume up just a little bit.
Is that better?
I'll know in a minute. I'm not sure. It doesn't do much when I adjust it, but.
Well, I need to be talking before anything happens.
You're good. I think we can hear you fine.
That's fine. I probably me in my throat a little bit, or I'll get closer to the mic.
Yeah, we're.
How's that? Any better?
Yeah, we're good. I can hear you fine.
Good.
Have you been keeping up with the Nats any?
Oh, I watch it every day.
Really? Good, because you probably know more about it than I do. I don't have time to check in on it all that often, but I did watch a video Sparky was streaming earlier. I watched the rerun of the earlier today live stream, or maybe it was yesterday, um, when he said he had qualified. It was going to be in the top 20. Is that correct?
I think that's what he said. I think
And
they fly off tomorrow.
yeah, okay, good. When he said tomorrow, I was assuming Friday in my head, but thinking back now, I wasn't sure which day he posted that. So
I went back to AMA schedule and looked at what they had posted, and I think the fly-offs are for Saturday finals.
somebody also posted a link on the forums too, and I'm going to copy it and paste it here to the AMA blog, news blog, and I've got one PDF, but there's one for every day. This one is for the 12th, and I'm going to post
Nats
it.
News?
What'd you say?
Nats News?
Let's see. I don't know if that's what it's called. AMA blog, model aircraft, GMA Nats files 2018. I don't see where it says Nats News. It might on the title though. But anyway, there, it's in the chat box now. So y'all can take a look at that and go through it. It's got one, it's all CL on that page, I think, except for one article is about RC combat. And they might have mistakenly placed it because I don't know, the CL combat written by Phil Cartier was just a short article, and there's a longer one on the RC combat. Jack Snavely just joined us. Says seen a neat looking Keelcraft Radion on YouTube. Couple flaps 049 built. Oh, talking half A. All right, cool. Well, yeah, if you got the link to it, Jack, post it in the chat box so we can take a look at it, or tell us about it if you want. But yeah, I like it. Sometimes we get to talking about half A in here, and it's not something that's all that popular to the mainstream Stunthangar crowd, but there are a bunch of us that do love half A. If you ain't grinning after you finish a half A flight, then you're doing something wrong. Flying too slow, probably.
I'm disappointed because, as I told you, I'm an old Navy carrier flyer, and I looked at the participants at the Nats, and boy, there weren't many.
Really?
Yeah.
We were having that problem a little bit in Huntersville too, and I noticed some of our Huntersville gang was up there. Shoemaker, Everett Shoemaker was there, and he's one of the leaders of our carrier crew at the Metrolina Control Line Society in Huntersville. Not sure who else from carrier. I guess David Smith's probably up there, but I recognized a few names. But when I was reading about the scores and all the different events, I saw a lot of names I know, a lot of people I've met. So it's nice to be able to keep up like that.
That's true.
Sparky was having a little bit of bandwidth trouble. He's going through cellular service to broadcast that. So it's dependent upon how good of a signal he's got as to how good the videos are. And they were pretty choppy. I'm hoping maybe his camera is recording the events as it sees them too, so that he could put them in a editable video that wouldn't be choppy like that, but I'm not sure how his setup works.
He had published a little bit of a rant the other day.
Yeah, he took it back down too.
Yeah, I saw that, but I'm sorry that happens. But I think Sparky needs to remember that if they're giving him a thumbs down, they're looking at it.
Yeah, this is true. And if you're ranting about it, you're giving them credibility too, and that's just bait. So just best thing to do is just ignore it, like we try to do.
Everybody all the time.
Yeah. But yeah, usually when I ask people, when I do my introduction here, I don't know if you ever get to see my introductions, but I ask people to click the super chat, explain what it's for, which it is what it's for. All that money does go back into his stunt hangar fees and all. I tell him, if you can, give us a donation. If you can't, we understand. And if you don't want to, then that's fine too. Everybody's welcome. We're just here to have fun, you know. And so you can't control what people do and say, and ranting about it, you know, that's just futile.
Yep, you're absolutely right. Enough of that subject.
Yeah, that closes that door for tonight. But I feel the same way too.
Yep.
No matter what you do, some people are not going to like it. Maybe they got a good reason that we just don't know about, you know. So I don't know.
Well, as I've said many times in my life, different strokes for different folks. You either like it or you don't like it.
Yeah.
So what? You know, we're all different people out of the same kind of mold.
So let's get back to this airplane you were starting to tell me about. I didn't catch the name of it. You said, it sounded like you said PT something.
All right, stand by. It's in the next room.
All right. Show and tell time. People, wait for Ron to come back. I love show and tell. I guess if I loved it so much, I'd bring more of it to show. When I first started doing this, I used to open with the show and tell while I was waiting for people to join up. But hadn't done that lately. Probably ought to prepare a little more, be a little more professional about it.
Turn my screen a little bit here.
Now, let me click on it so that the YouTubers can see it big. Here we go. Oh, okay. That's beautiful.
That's when I was in the Navy, I was stationed at Naval Air Station, Groseal, Michigan. That's a replica of one of the airplanes that was there. I still have pictures of it.
Okay, what's the designation of that plane? What's it called?
Navy calls it the SNJ-5. Air Force calls it the AT-6.
Okay. So it's not a P something or an A something, or what was its function? Was it looks like it's built a what?
Trainer. You see the two?
Oh, a trainer. Okay.
Two guys in the cockpit.
Yeah, I see.
One instructor, one trainer.
Is the instructor in the rear?
I have no idea. I have no idea at this stage. But this is a 40-powered RC ship.
What is Grosse Isle? Is that the station where that plane was based?
It's a naval base that was in the middle of the Detroit River.
Oh, no shit.
Downriver from downtown Detroit. The airport is still there. The Navy moved out of there in the 70s and moved up to Selfridge Air Force Base north of Detroit.
That must be one hell of a wide river.
Yeah, it is. Let me put this back.
Okay. Yeah, Jack says he's glad Sparky's there and doing good and filming. Yeah, and filming what he likes. Yeah, thanks, Jack. Yeah, he's doing a lot for us that we would not have if he wasn't going to the trouble to drive all those miles and go to the trouble with his camera. I think he's about wearing himself out. And
Talking about Sparky again?
I was just commenting on what Jack posted in the chat box. He said he's glad Sparky's there and doing good and filming the things he likes. So yeah, he brings a lot to us. Love him or hate him, he brings a lot to us that we wouldn't have otherwise. I
can't see the YouTube chat box. I can only see the group chat, and nobody.
Yeah, it's on the YouTube watch page. If you go to the YouTube watch page, where the people that watch it on YouTube are, over to the right is a chat box, and
I know what it is.
The three dots at the top. If you click those and then select pop out chat, it'll pop out into a little square that you can reshape, drag over, and park beside the video window that we're in, and then minimize that whole browser screen, or if you can, it might be different on my computer, but in any case, cover it all up with just the chat box and then us, so it's right next to, you know, you can shape it so it fits, both of them fit into the screen.
I'll give it
That's
a
how
try.
I watch it. But a couple of our guys, Charles and Gerald, will do that, and then that helps me because they'll catch things that the chat boxers post that I don't notice, and we don't let anybody post an interesting comment and then not say anything about it. 'Cause I hate it when I miss something somebody says, but I get busy and forget to check on the YouTubers, and they're our main audience. You know, there's only four to six or seven of us in here most nights, but over there's usually you know, 13 to 15 guys watching YouTube. Oh, hey Sparky, how you doing?
Pretty good. Just dropping in to say hello.
Pretty worn out today, I bet.
Oh yeah, getting ready to go to sleep again.
Good evening, Sparky.
Good flying. So you qualified in the top 20 for tomorrow, right?
I already flew top 20 today. I ended up 17th or 18th.
Oh, well,
Not good. I wasn't rookie of the year. It took me 15 years and 20 grand to get top 20 finally.
well, you didn't come in last, and is that the first time you've been there? So hey, you know, you did something you've never done before, so it's not all bad.
Well, I put up a movie of the bias judging. You know, inverted flight, flat, perfect, no bobbles. 40 points from one judge, 31 from the other. Give me a break.
That's a hell of a spread.
Well, that I had a perfect landing. You couldn't even hear the wheels touch the ground. I mean, nice descent. I got, you know, was getting 35 or 38, and then 32. You know, same shit. One particular judge can hold you off, you know, by one number every flight, and I would have been rookie of the year. The guy don't like me, and you know what? I don't care. I just wish they get the judging straightened out. Get the people that don't know. You know, we need judges that don't know anybody.
All right. Well, so what's going on tomorrow at the Nats?
Top 5.
Top 5, okay. So I'll keep an eye out for anybody that posts updates on that.
That must be what I saw on the AMA listing.
Are you going to get the cameras out tomorrow?
I am going to have a camera rolling on. It's only flown on one circle. I'll try to get all 15 flights with the camera on a tripod, and I will take my video streaming and try to stream some stuff as well. And we're going to have a little judges critique after I get all 15 flights and see what the scores are.
What about the ones that you did in the, I think it was the qualifying rounds, and you look like the broadband signal, the cellular service must have been pretty weak because it was stopping and starting and breaking up, pixelating. And did that, were you also recording straight from the camera to any solid media, or is that all you've got from that? Was it all going to the stream?
That one particular site stream where I started out with the old car was only streaming, and I'm streaming with a hotspot in my pocket that's running on 4G, and 4G is not, the Wi-Fi is not, or the bandwidth is not enough to keep up. You need something with 5G or, you know, a hardwired router.
Right. I didn't know there was that much difference between 4G and 5G.
So we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Okay, well, I
can only
appreciate
do what
you
I
doing
can
the
do.
top 5 because I'll look forward to watching that. I always hope somebody gets good videos of it.
It's very hard for me to compete, judge, help my teammates, so to speak, and and take video all at the same time. And then when I get these jokers with all the thumbs down and negative content, comments, they can come here and do it themselves.
Well, they're not going to. They just want to sit home and make comments from the comfort of their armchair.
So I'm not a professional camera crew. I'm just one guy with a stupid cell phone, streaming.
Everybody that counts realizes that. Everybody that matters does. Here's Gerald. He'll be in a second. Hey, Gerald, how you doing tonight?
Good evening, Gerald.
Rusty. Ron, hello, Ron too. Well, we've been enjoying watching Sparky's videos. I know it's hard. I've tried to shoot at nets and stuff, but normally I've got my sons to help, and that's a great help. But I can appreciate how hard you found it, Sparky.
Well, I got a folder on the computer here with quite a few files in it, lots of pictures from the appearance judging. It won't be a video, it'll be photographs. So you get to look at the airplanes. And then I have some videos, video footage that I'll edit up when I get home, where I got some bandwidth to upload. But you cannot upload from this motel. There's just no bandwidth at all. I'm surprised that I'm on Wi-Fi here talking to you guys.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of other people using it at the same time too, so that clogs it, no matter how good of a speed they got, I guess.
Yeah, it always varies. Rural areas are normally worse, at least in New Zealand they are. That's often 3G or 2G in some places around here. I'm lucky we've got 4G at home.
But I didn't take as many videos as I would have liked to, that I brought camera gear for. First off, my autofocus went out in my Nikon, so I'm stuck with my Sony, and the Osmo is so hard to use, I'm probably going to sell the damn thing.
Oh.
Well, Jack Snavely sends his congratulations to you.
Thanks.
Well, you've done well. You've done well on two fronts, shooting videos and flying. But as people said, the main thing is that you're there to fly, so don't worry too much about it or watching your videos.
Well, I try to keep my Stunthangar crew, up to date on what's going on, but I just can't do everything.
I posted a link in the chat box. It's the third post down tonight with a link to the day 12 report from the AMA news documents. It's a PDF. So if anybody wants to read up on that, it's got a good article with each different event. And I saw a lot of the people I recognized and the carrier, Everett Shoemaker, and some of our Carolina gang are up there.
Well, the gal from AMA came around with her video camera, and of course they were for sure to video Paul Walker because nobody knows who he is. So they got good footage of him anyway.
Good.
Yeah, nobody else, just Paul Walker, because nobody knows Paul Walker.
You got to know how to film a control line stunt flight too, if you want the audience to be able to actually see the stunts like the judges do. And a lot of people don't know that, and so that helps. And I hope she has that figured out, but hadn't seen it yet. I usually like to plant the pilot's feet at the bottom of the center of the screen, right behind the judges, and then you can pretty much see everything. You might have to lift up a little for overhead eights, but other than that, you can capture the whole flight if you're zoomed right. And also, like the judges have to not move their heads. You don't move the camera around much, because I like to watch the videos and kind of practice judge. And if the camera's moving, then that just ruins your ability to do that.
Well, we're going to get some of those tomorrow.
Yeah. You got to
All
be
right,
able
guys.
to see the reference points on every segment of the stunt if you want to be able to decide what the score might be on that.
10 o'clock, I'm out of here.
Okay.
Well, hope it
All
goes
right,
well.
Sparky. Well,
We'll see
sleep
you
tight.
Monday.
Hope you feel good tomorrow.
All righty. Take care.
All right.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Good night.
Well, he got his frustrations off, so we can move on from there.
Yeah, we already discussed that.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know. Just trying to shoot events. I'm lucky that I've got my two sons. They're getting to the age now where they can actually shoot some video for me, and I can focus on other things at hand.
Yeah.
But yeah, unless you've got somebody else there that can help, well, it's a hard job. Yeah.
But he's right. You can't do it all at one time. You got to concentrate on one thing. It's just too many balls in the air at one time.
Yeah, I know. In the past, I often would go along trying to organise the stunt event, but I didn't want to fly if I was organising. If we were running the barbecue or just helping run an event, flying was just too much stress. So sometimes you just got to do what's practical.
Let's send out congratulations to our video buddy, Mike Lonsky, and his son. Earlier this week, both won first place in their class of precision aerobatics on the same day. Mike pitted for Sam in beginner PA, and Sam won first place. And then later on, or I don't know which order it came in, but Mike also won first place in intermediate PA with a I don't know, 517 or something like that. But I believe it's time for Mike to move on up to advanced next time we see him. He'll be out of my hair, because when I go back, I'll probably drop back into intermediate instead of moving up to advanced like I had been planning. So I won't have him to be beating me out of first place all the time now.
Sam did very well. I had a look, and they shot some nice videos of he and his father, and yeah, it was quite encouraging for the boys, my boys, to watch and see how well he did.
Yeah. Yeah, Sam's looking pretty good out there. And Mike's always been good. He was good from the get-go. The only thing that kept him from scoring higher when he flew his first precision aerobatics flight is he didn't know the rules of how the shapes and intersections and all of that were supposed to be, where the tops and intersections were supposed to be. So he was just going out and improvising and still beating me.
Well, he came from the combat field, didn't he? Where it's much more random.
Reflexes of a cat.
Did you hear anything from Paris?
Not yet. I was going to ask y'all the same thing.
I think it starts tomorrow. It starts on the 14th there. So
they start with a World Cup event, which is separate, isn't it, from the World Championship events? Is that how it goes?
I had a bit of a look, and it was a bit confusing for me. There were open events that had already run, but they said the official event started on the 14th, from what I could understand. But you had to sort of translate from French to English, and I might have lost things in the translation too.
I'm surprised we don't have an English speaker doing his own blog. And by the way, thanks for the super chat. We appreciate that.
That's okay. Yeah. Well, with Steve there, I've been looking at his Facebook page, and I know he arrived there, and people have been wishing him well and hoping everything goes well. But yeah, we haven't had any news of the event per se or from.
What about the Control Line Flying Facebook page? Do you ever look at that?
Yeah, I had a look at that, but I looked last night, but I couldn't find anything about the World Champs on.
Yeah, stuff on Facebook moves so fast you can miss it, and it's like looking at a 15-foot long scroll of, paper or something. So it can disappear in a hurry.
You don't have the proper title, you'll never find it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I share the computer normally with the two boys and my wife, and sometimes I only get a few hours I'm lucky if I have a few hours on Stunthangar, and then I might get an hour in the evening where they've all gone to bed where I can try and catch up. But it's hard to fit everything in. But yeah, the electronic media can swallow up all your time if you let it. So I often just like to put everything down and just go and do some building in the evening. If the others are watching TV, sometimes one of them will join me and do some building in the modeling room with me. But you can spend all your time on Facebook and I suppose Stunthangar and all the other, looking at all the YouTube videos, and you lose all your time.
Some people post so much and know so much about what's going on the forums. I don't know how they have the time to do it, because I don't.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of people live around their virtual life on the internet, and it's hard because a lot of them got ideas about what they'd like to try, but they just don't seem to have the time to go out and practice and test the ideas out. And that's something I do with a lot of the local modelers. A lot of talk, but not a lot of people actually out there flying, especially if the weather's a bit marginal like we've got here in New Zealand now. We don't often get people turning up at the flying site. They'll talk about it on the internet, but they don't turn up at the site. Yeah, we've got a big storm coming through tomorrow, so I think we lose our flying for tomorrow, but me and the boys did manage to put in some flights on some combat wings during the week, and they were quite happy. They were both flying quite well. I had them on some little half-A combats. When I say half-A, I mean with a 09 on them.
Oh, yeah. No, I've never flown an 09 plane.
Yeah, it's just probably a little bit bigger than the 049.
Yeah.
With a little diesel on them.
Some of the boxes, like the old Goldberg kits, used to say 049 to 09, like the Stuntman 23, but I can't imagine putting an 09 on the front of something like a Stuntman 23. And maybe I ought to try it sometime. I've got a box of wood that I bought specifically to build 3 Stuntman 23s. I was going to give one to a guy in one of the northern states, Wisconsin, Michigan, somewhere in that area. But you know, that was back when my building kind of fell off and I started wrecking my stunters, and all I was doing was repairing. So never did build them, and got that box of lumber on the shelf in the bone room. And so if I ever do build any of those Stuntman 23s, I might slap my 09 on them. I got one of them now, and see how it flies with a big old lunky engine like that. Because as compared to an 049, it's big and heavy.
Yeah, mind you, if you get some 09s are a lot heavier than others, like the TOW 09, like that one there.
Yeah. On the other hand, I remember having to hang nuts and bolts on the front end of the Stuntman 23 with the 049, so it might just balance out perfectly. But I bet it'll be darn fast.
Yeah, well, some of the 09s, like the FP09 LA or FP10 LA 10, the 10 FSR, those motors were quite heavy motors, whereas a Medallion 09 or TD09 about 2/3 the weight. They're actually very light.
Mine's a TD09, and I think it's a lot more powerful than a lot of the other 09s. I've heard it called the 15 in disguise.
Yeah, they are. They're a nice little motor. I had one on a combat wing many years ago, and it went well, very well. But they are noisy and they don't like a muffler. That was the only thing we found.
Yeah, most Doxes don't. Do you? What was I gonna? I forgot what I was gonna ask now. No, it just totally floated out of my head. It was something about the 09 I was gonna ask you, but anyway, yeah, I got one that's been dying to fly. I keep it clean, keep it oiled, and it's just waiting for me to take action.
Yeah, because
on my Stuntman 23s, the only difference I'm building into my Stuntman 23s is I bought shaped airfoil wood, and I'm going to glue 2 flat bottom airfoils together, flat to flat, so I've got a symmetrical airfoil, and it won't be that big of a curve, but it'll be more than just a flat slab.
Yeah, that should be quite good. Yeah, and you're not flying at an angle to get lift.
That's right. As well. You're not just depending on horsepower to drag it around.
Yeah.
And inverted flying, I guess, makes that a lot more consistent.
Yeah, because on inverted with the reverse airfoil, you've got a whole lot of down elevator on just trying to keep it up. And they slow right down inverted when they've got without a symmetrical wing. I remember that from my early days of flying. But yeah, the Medallion 09 doesn't mind the muffler compared to the TD. It doesn't normally have the sub-piston induction.
Oh, thanks for the super chat. We got another one. Appreciate that, Jack. Jack's becoming a regular on our YouTube chat box, and we enjoy having you, Jack. Thanks a lot.
Oh, it's good. The more the merrier, really. The whole control line field, the more people that we can get involved in it, the better. Keep it alive. But here's my little TD09 model here. I'll pick it out. It broke the engine out. It was originally all doped, and then part of it got covered in silk span, but that had my TD09 on it. But it's got iron-on fabric on one side, but yeah, that was a lot of fun when I was a kid. But I've got all these models I've dug out of my parents' attic and finding spaces for them, having to get rid of some of them because they're too rough. The other thing amusing that happened the other day was I was flying this larger model. It's a 3.5 or 3.2 cc engine, and see if you can guess what went wrong if I flick it over.
No compression.
the piston isn't moving either.
It's not electric.
I could probably put an electric motor in the back now, but,
yeah.
But no, it broke the crankshaft.
If you can get it started, sometimes those loose ones will really scream. I don't know how much torque they've got, but they'll really turn a lot of RPMs if you can get them cranked.
It's funny, Rusty, because I suckered you in Monday with my that little red thing I had that's got the fake motor on it.
You did. You suckered me in good. I said, oh, this is an OS-25.
Yeah.
No, it's electric. It's plastic. Did you say it was plastic? It's metal, isn't it?
No, it's plastic with a bearing in there and an extension shaft. The motor's in the back.
Yeah.
Motor.
Oh, this one that took off the crank pin. So it was going along quite nicely, flying along quite nicely, and then there was a sudden a little pop, and that was the crank pin going. And Otto said, "You've broken your crankshaft," and he was right. We just took the cylinder liner off, and the piston liner is still good, but the little crank pin's broken off the crankshaft. So, well, that was the other thing I tried. I made up some lines using the other funny filament line, fishing style line, and it worked really well, I have to say. I made up a couple of handles. And
I couldn't see for the glare. What's the brand name on that?
It's a local one called Maxi Strike, but it's one of those funny synthetic lines that have very little stretch to them.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, you pre-stretch it, and it grows a little bit when you pre-stretch it, and then once it's all made up, it they settle down, and they give very good positive response. It was quite pleasant. I thought if I could make up 2 sets for the boys, they could fly combat without ruining a whole lot of sets of lines.
Is that stuff is not basically Kevlar, is it? It's something different.
It's different, yeah. I can't remember the specific chemical name that they've given it, but they're just selling it at one of the local shops as a non-stretch fishing line, much better than the traditional nylon monofilament. And it's
Gel spun ultra high density polyethylene sounds right. G-Sump. I think that's what Spectra is. And David Eskins just came in. Yeah, like Spectra. In fact, that's the G-Sump that the AMA made legal for combat, and probably should for stunt too.
Yeah, I was very impressed. It worked really well. It slides over itself so easily, even when it's wet. The only hard thing is doing the knots, and my hands have got the old arthritis, and I wished I'd got the boys to try and do tie the knots, because
Yeah.
the knots you've got to use a special procedure to tie the knots they show on the back to make the connections.
I can do it with a small pair of hemostats. You know,
Yeah.
be able to pull the line through the loops with hemostats. That's the only way I can do it now.
Yeah, I've reached that point now too. Yeah, I've got to use them as well at times. My fingers just lack the dexterity now.
Yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it? Especially if they lose feeling too. I'm hoping to get some feeling back over here, but I'm having to be patient with that. It's not coming as fast as I had hoped, but it might or might not. We'll see. But yeah, I've seen a lot of old guys that look a lot more feeble than me standing out there flying airplanes and doing all the stuff. So hey, I can't give up.
Is it Rob Bishop that says Spectra saw a lot of use for sports skydiving suspension lines?
Yeah, he just posted that. Trust your life with it.
No, I was quite impressed because I've used Tyroline, I've used dial cord, which was one they used to use on the old-fashioned radios to move the little dial indicator on the radio. That wasn't too bad. It was better than Tyroline. And then I've used the Kevlar, but the Kevlar was very draggy, whereas this new Spectra style line.
Draggy, you mean with the wires dragging on each other, or you mean dragging in the air?
Yeah, dragging in the air. The Kevlar was it wasn't round, it was oblong, almost flat, and it posed a lot more drag than a traditional line. And I used it. It was good for combat, but the lines would be arcing back. You'd have a big arc in your lines.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That also affects the lead out sweep.
But the lines would be arcing back. You'd have a big arc in your lines.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. That also affects the lead out sweep. Somebody's YouTube just lit up in the background. Yeah, I've heard that. That also affects the lead out sweep. Somebody's YouTube just lit up in the background. Yeah, I've heard that. That also.
That was me.
Oh, okay. I can't even find it. I think I actually closed my YouTube page.
Yeah,
if you put the chat box up so I can see what's going on.
Oh, you have to mute it. That's all. Just mute it.
Yeah. Just or stop it. Hit the stop button over there. That way your bandwidth doesn't get twice used.
Yeah, that makes sense. I should. Mine's just muted, so yeah, I'll stop it. That's makes sense.
Yeah. It really slows down your video connection when the YouTube is video live.
Yeah, doubling up. Yeah, because there's a delay between the two, and so you're obviously doing it twice. You're doubling up your bandwidth usage.
It gives you the echo too.
I remember it took us a long time doing this show to get all those little things figured out, and we used to have people coming in, and for the first half hour of the show, we were trying to get rid of all the echoes and background noise and all that stuff. And now we pretty much got the hang of it, and we just pop right in and don't have any of those technical difficulties anymore.
Yeah, it's been pretty good on the whole. Just turn on. Notice my laptop wasn't charging. I forgot to turn on the power. Go flat on my battery. But yeah, simple things, easy to forget. Just a little thing and it stuffs it all up. But for the young ones, it's easy for them to pick it up much quicker. When I was at school, I just started using computers when I left school, so I didn't get the time on computers that young kids get today, where they're on computers as soon as they start school.
Yeah, when I was in college was the first exposure to computers I had, but we still didn't have anything like a PC. This was in 1974, 75, 76 through 78, I guess. And we were still using an Intel Z80, I think, was the core chip to most of those. We'd have to build a box with a Z80 and maybe he'd assign us a 40 set of instructions, and we'd have to put it together so it would run those 40 instructions, and it was pretty crude compared to what we've got now. What the things we use now are freaking magic.
Yeah, it's a huge improvement. I remember the ZX80 and ZX81. They were when I was finishing school. And then later on, my brother was using the Commodore 64. That was the big computer of its day, a little bit later on. But, you know, it's so much more reliable now. I think that's the big thing. When I started working, the computers would crash all the time. You're always redoing work because something went down, and they didn't last that long too. You're lucky to get a year's trouble-free use out of some of the early computers before they started playing up.
Yeah. In the early Windows versions, you had to reboot 3 times a day just to make sure they would stay more or less stable.
Yeah, I think I wore out the Control Alt Delete keys on my board.
Yeah. Control Alt Delete. Yeah. And when one program crashed, it brought the whole thing down. And now each individual program doesn't have access to the main kernel of the operating system, so it can't bring anything but itself down. And I don't understand much more about it than that. But the first really stable operating system that Windows had was 7. And you could go a month without rebooting 7 and forget about it. And 10 came after that, and 10's not as stable as 7 was. But again, 10 is trying to do more and emulate and communicate with more different types of platforms, and 7 was not trying to talk to cell phones, tablets, other PCs, and everything else that's out there.
Yeah, all the new touch screens and things now too. I think Rob Bishop said he's got to run now.
Yeah, he must have gotten a call, go help somebody. He's a computer support guy, I think. So we'll see you later, Bob. Come back when you can. He goes and sees if they've got them plugged in and that sort of thing. People call him when everything goes to hell on their computer. Just as we were talking about that, he got a service call.
Oh well, I suppose they're like a doctor nowadays doing health calls in a sense.
Yeah,
People,
everything's an emergency.
Yeah, well, as soon as the power goes down and the computers go off, then business virtually turns off these days. So much is dependent on the whole system working, not just internet sales, but you go into a shop and if they can't use their FPOS, then they're scratching their heads. We're very dependent now. Remember in the old days, you used to have the zip zap cards for your credit card, and they could do that and still process a payment when their FPOS was down. But nowadays, you go into a garage and they can't do your wheel alignment or anything if they don't have the power. They can't use a lot of their machinery now. Everything is very much dependent on electricity and high-tech innovations.
Smart homes are another thing that a lot of technology companies would like to be available, but they're not quite there yet. And I certainly wouldn't buy one now until they go a few generations where your refrigerator controls are connected to your stove and the house lighting and the door locks and everything else. And nah, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah, I know Google and all that are pushing that. They're trying to get it into people's houses, but it is a worry. I know where we are. We're in a rural area, and we're all on all overhead power lines, and the power lines run for miles and miles. And when something goes down, it can take them a long time to fix it. So it's nice to have a gas appliance or a wood burning stove and a generator, all of that gear. I don't know how that would hook into a smart home where everything's all powered off your computer.
David Askins asks, are you talking stunt or PCs? What's going on at the Nats?
A little of both.
We got off topic. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. Well, I advertised at the start of the show. We'll talk about anything, but yeah, I'll post again. Let me see. I'll post again a link to the best information I've got, and it's only good. Control V, boom. there. Follow that link and you can get some good information, but it's only valid up to yesterday.
Mm.
And that was on the AMA website, where they've got a blog, a daily blog, keeping up. And I think that's the main page I just posted. So you can look at that and see pictures of all of the score sheets as of yesterday. I can't tell you much more except for I know that Sparky finally, for the first time in his life, qualified for the top 20 and came in 17th, and he was really disappointed in that after all these years of trying. But hey, he got in. That's something he's never done before. So, maybe he can give it another try. But he's multitasking out there too, rather than just concentrating on flying. So, give him kudos for that.
I think when you're in those top placings, your name's remembered, and even though they wouldn't like to say it, I'm sure if your name's known, your scores invariably improve. Because he was moaning about how his scores should have been better looking at his flying, and it's probably quite true. But unless you're one of those top 5 flyers, I think it's hard to break into that area of being one of the top flyers. You need to be out there long enough that everybody knows your name. It's a hard one, it really is. But I expect everybody would know who Sparky is and what he's doing and what he's about. But maybe they're being harder on him because of how much he knows. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that complaining about the judges is the greatest idea. You'll have to get those guys again, and they'll remember.
Yeah, there's a hard one. I know my flying will never probably get a whole lot better, but at least I can critique my sons and say, yeah, you're flying well here. You're progressing well, and some judges are very helpful. They'll tell you your errors, and others will just score you badly. I'd much rather know what my errors are than just being marked back. And that's the difference between judges. Some very, very helpful. But I suppose when you're dealing with so many people, it would be very challenging. How many people?
When I entered my first intermediate event on Saturday before the Pampa events, we fly profile, and we don't mix skill classes. And after the first round, one of the judges came out, and he's a friend of mine now, doesn't really know anything but his name back then. But he came out and told us all about part of the problems we were having is trying to bang the corners and the squares and bleeding off energy, and gave us a bunch of examples of how to improve before the second round if we wanted to try to fly a little bit smoother and conserve energy in the corners. And I thought that was pretty good of a judge to do that.
Yeah.
They're pilots too. A lot of them, most of them probably are.
Yeah, I suppose some people guard their skills. Others are more than prepared to share them. I think a lot of people that have been flying a long time realize it's just good to have others actively involved and trying to compete at a higher level, try and raise the level of achievement. I know the New Zealanders that we've got going to the World Champs are really our best flyers. We've got Kevin Barnes and what's the other one? Daniel Munro. They're our 2 entries into F2B, and they're exceptionally good flyers. I could never fly within a fraction of. I'd be lucky if I could fly half as good as they could fly. But everybody encourages them to basically do better, knowing they'll be competing at a world level. And it's very easy in a country like New Zealand to be the best of your peers, but not really competing at the world level because you don't get the comparison unless you go to those competitions. And I'm sure it'd be the same there. Getting along to the nats would be the real measure of your flying.
Yeah.
You might be flying very well locally, but
that's why Mike Lonke refused to advance himself up to the next level from intermediate, because he knew that the competition he'd been beating in Huntersville was not anything like the people he would be flying with at the Nats, and possibly Brodak too. and he wanted to go win Brodak and the Nats, at least something in Pampa, whether it's an official or profile, which is not official, like he did this week. And so now, I think he knows that he's ready to move up. He should be convinced.
Well, how many people do they have flying expert class at the Nats? It looked like they had 3 circles running at a time. There must be a fair number.
There are a bunch of them. I don't know the count.
I think I saw 30 on the score listing.
Well, that's
When Mike won profile the other day, I think there was about 19 or so of them that he was flying against.
well, again, that's a very healthy number. And there can't be that many places like the States where you have such a healthy contingent of flyers actively involved and competing at that level. I suppose some of the places in Eastern Europe would probably...
That's what I was about to say. Yeah, that's a hotbed of talent over there.
Yeah.
And so people who are dominating at the U.S. Nationals might get their clock cleaned over in Europe if they're a first timer and not familiar with the competition, and especially the little nuances between FAI and AMA and that sort of thing too.
Yeah, I'm surprised at the differences that exist, but it's like looking at what we do here in New Zealand in terms of combat. We've got slow combat, and then we've got the FAI combat, but we've lost all the other classes. Like they used to have a half A combat that I built models for, the ones I was showing you before, and I think the 35 size combat models would have been built here in the past, maybe 049 ones, but a lot of the people from that era aren't around to tell us. So you might find an old airplane that tells you otherwise, but it's not we don't have a well recorded history here with our model aviation. But yeah, you've got how many classes of combat in the States? You've got half A, and you've got slow and fast, and then the FAI combat, and you had I suppose some clubs have got their own forms of combat, like the graffiti combat I read about, where they're limiting themselves to 75 mile an hour. So
yeah, that's what our speed limit combat is at Huntersville is 75, I think, and but it varies from from club to club too. Oh, I just thought of something else that might be interesting for y'all that are wanting information on the Nats, is that Terry Forbes sent me an email, and I just got it right as I was starting the show, so I hadn't had a chance to look at it. It's a link to a video. So I'm going to go to my email right now and copy that and paste it in the chat box if anybody wants to take a look at it. Let me copy hyperlink and see if that's something interesting. Here we go. If I can. What did I do? I just pasted a bunch of smiley faces by accident. I can't lift my right finger up enough to stop clicking the right button, and it makes the computer do all kinds of crazy stuff. And now I can't make these smileys go away. Stop that. I don't know. I've botched up the chat box and can't use it now. I'm going to just hit go and see what it posts. All right, here we go. It's just posted a bunch of garbage. Okay, paste. Here we go. Okay, here comes the link. Boom, right there is what Terry Forbes sent to me.
Oh, he's been great, posting a whole lot of different links. I've been watching.
Yeah, he sends me links to some pretty good stuff. He sends me links to fishing stuff too, which I always read, and it's pretty interesting.
Well, it's
Now,
cold.
get back to y'all. I got to get my video window back, and there you are. Okay, I'm going to step away for just a second, and so I'll leave it up to you and Ron to dominate the conversation for just about a minute or two. I'll be right back.
Well, Ron, I saw that you had a model before. It looked like an SNJ6, if I was right. What used to be called the North.
It's a radio-controlled version of the Air Force AT-6.
Yeah.
The Navy version is the SNJ-5. Same airplane, different numbers.
Yeah. So the Texan 1, I suppose, is the Air Force or Army version, where they called it a Texan, or was that post-war when it became the Texan, or was it a nickname for it?
The Air Force version, the AT, is for Advanced Trainer.
Yeah.
And it's the 5th or 6th version. And then the Navy version, Navy nomenclature, the SNJ is, the J is for North American, which was the original builder. And either the S or the N is for trainer.
Oh.
Same thing, just different way of doing the same thing.
Yeah. They're very popular aircraft. And there was the Commonwealth version they called the Harvard, North American Harvard. Yeah, I thought it'd be a great subject for a control line model too, but it does have the swept back on the leading edge. I suppose it make your flap easy.
I have the Navy carrier ship that I first flew with the Nats, and that's 35 years ago, was the SNJ-5 control line version. And then about 10 years ago, I built a duplicate of it because the first one was long gone, crashed. And then I like it so much that I got went to a swap meet and picked up a partially built RC kit. And I'm just finishing the thing off because I like the looks of the airplane.
Yeah, it is a brilliant looking plane. Yeah, we've got a few of them still floating around New Zealand. Over Christmas, the kids went in one that turned into a playground exhibit. They were climbed up into the thing. But most museums seem to all have one, and there are still probably half a dozen of them flying here in New Zealand.
We have an air show not too far from my house over here, and they usually put on flight demonstrations. They have 4 or 5 of them flyable, and they'll do formation flying with them, smoke trails, and it's just neat.
Yeah, they've got that brilliant sound with that 2-blade propeller. I think it's close to supersonic or whatever. It has that sort of Harvard howl or whatever. Howl.
Yep. That and the radial engine has a sound all its own.
Yeah, they're really, really quite a nice plane. A humble plane, but quite a nice plane. I suppose they're probably one of the most affordable warbird style aircraft.
Yep, very much so.
I think I've got a plastic kit, but I intended to build a control line one at some point. So the radio control one you built, is it a 40 size one or?
It's a 40 size one. I think it's got a 56-inch wingspan. So it's about the size of a stunt airplane, but it's it's more scale. It's not a full scale. It's a semi scale. The nose on the thing is just a tad longer than a scale would be.
Just to get it to balance.
It makes it balance out a little better.
Yeah. There's some really nice naval aircraft that have got nice proportions. I suppose because those that flew with a carrier probably had to have a bigger wing area than a normal ground-based fighter plane. They probably fly that bit better with the bigger wing anyway.
And it's got dihedral at the tips, so the wing breaks just outside the fuselage, and you got dihedral going out, plus the swept back leading edge. It's a very stable airplane. Yeah.
We've got a Grumman Avenger that we were looking at on the weekend at our local museum, and again the nice dihedral from the wing joint where the wing's gold. Yep. Yeah, they have a brilliant, nice looking wing that looks like it would make a nice flying model anyway. But my oldest son built it's stuck on the rear wall. He built a Grumman Wildcat, or they call it the Martlet in the English version. He built that for the Nats, and he flew that at the Nationals this year. it was a really rushed model. We threw it together, talked about it on Stunthangar before, but he just liked the look of it, the naval aircraft, and he said, I'd love to build another naval model again.
Yep.
TV Bandit, David Fountain, if y'all recognize the name, one of our occasional visitors, built has a Wildcat, but it's a half A. That's not what y'all are talking about, though. Y'all not talking half A, are you? Okay.
We're talking about the SNJ that I had on when we started, that I showed you.
Yeah. Yeah, he got an award for best scale. In fact, I brought it home with me and been meaning to send it to him since nobody's ever seen it. Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, we don't get our names on the tags, but here's David Fountain's best scale.
Best scale, all right.
Half A Day 2016. Did that come up big in the screen? Yeah, because I'm talking, so it's making. And you know what the symbol here is, don't you?
What is it?
It's a half of a capital A.
Ah, cafe, of course.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like a runway.
You see them on the wall behind me. I got a few of them.
Yeah.
I got more than that. So I got a stack of them on the table underneath there.
Well, you suckered me on that one like I did the use.
Yeah. They look a lot of fun anyway, those small half A models.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can still have a lot of detail. It's where it's a pity that we've lost the Black Hawk models. They made some really neat little kits. Some of them look quite neat for what they were.
The hollow logs, I wish that I had known back in the day to hollow those things out even further, because I just built them as a solid block of wood. And did you hollow yours out?
Well, I generally hollowed them out. I had a go with my modeling knife when I was dealing with a lump of wood like that, but I didn't build many hollow log style models. I tended to be building mainly profiles.
Yeah.
When I did hollow it out, it was a poor attempt.
My problem is I hollowed them out to about 1/4 of an inch and still left all the weight in there.
Yeah, that's what I would do. 1/4 of an inch seemed about right to me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob Zambelli's got he was good friends with Walt Musiano, who Scientific is selling the models mostly that Walt designed. And
he had a book of his models.
Yeah. They were great friends, and so they worked on some of these designs together. And Bob's he brings half A's out to the flying field when we go out just to putz around. And I'll be holding one, and he'll remind me sometimes, be careful, Rusty, that wood's only a 1/16 of an inch thick back there, you know, all the way from the front back to the back of the fuselage. He hollows them out paper thin, but they're great flying little planes.
Yeah,
I remember all his plans had WAM on the corner of the plans.
Oh, did they? On the Black Hawk site, was that still on there?
Couldn't tell you. I haven't looked in years.
But really, I was talking like I built a bunch of them. The only hollow log that I remember building, and I don't think it was the only one, but the one I still have hanging in the shop is fuel soaked, and it's called a Little Devil. And it was actually a fast flying little plane. And I tried to fly a loop with it a couple of times and never could get it to do anything but a figure 9. But that was back before I knew how to fly a loop. I just pull full up and
Put your eyes and pull. Funny, we've all done the same thing.
Yeah, I think all modelers tend to start that way. It's fun watching my sons do just the same thing, except you give them a slow stunt plane and it's one loop. Give them a combat plane, it's about 3 or 4 loops before they go in. But, great amusement watching them.
Stunt planes, the loops don't really grow bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I was amazed at my twister when it slipped out of my hand the first time, you know, a couple of winters ago, and I broke the wing. But it was just on the lanyard, which for me is for me is the up line because I hold the handle backwards. But in any case, on the lanyard, it's pulling full up, and it flew loops the size of a basketball without ever growing. It was just sitting up there doing this, and I had no idea it would do that. It's amazing. And we were talking the other night about a video that Chris Rudd did of the camera focused on the control surfaces, about how little they actually move when you do, you know, proper stunt size loops. And so when you pull 40 degrees elevator and flap, those things really do turn their guts out.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have one.
I just got a note from my local flying president. Astronomy get together at the flying field. Jason Perez bought a new telescope, which he has the ability to point and track stuff in the sky, bringing it out to the. That's all I've got on my preview. Let's see. Well, I can't. Bringing it out to the field tomorrow, Saturday, to try it, but only if the sky's not cloudy. You're invited to join. Might be a good idea to bring some mosquito repellent. Okay, excellent, man. That sounds cool. Tomorrow's Ollie's and my anniversary, so maybe after supper we'll go out there and take a look at Jason's new telescope.
No. You're going to take your wife out and see the stars.
Right. Yeah. I'll look at the telescope while she's looking at the stars. I love telescopes. I do not have a nice one. We bought our son a couple of small Jason telescopes, and the big end was probably, so big around. I don't know what size that would be called. I don't know anything about telescopes really, but now my brother-in-law's got one that's this big around, and you look through it's got reflectors and stuff in it. So, but I've never used one like that. But I love astronomy. I love looking at the stars and stuff. And so, yeah, I hope it's clear skies tomorrow. It should be. I think we've had pretty clear evenings lately. The humidity is really low, and I don't think there's any fronts moving through. So I'll keep an eye on that.
Sounds like it'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, it'd be nice to have some clear nights back here, but everything's very wet and yucky outside now. The wife took the boys out for a walk around the paddock, and they all came back covered in mud, just stomping around through it. And the mud just gets kicked up on them. But
That's something to show you, Gerald.
Jack Snavely says he had a combat kit, and that's a scientific plane, isn't it? He said it lumped so hard that it was hard to launch safely. I wonder what he meant by lumped. You think that's a typo? Jumped? It jumped so hard, because I've seen combat planes flip over. In fact, I had Wayne launch a scientific combat was the name of the kit, and it had two of them in it, and I built both of them, and me and Wayne were going to do some toy combat with them. But first time we flew one, I was out there with the handle, and Wayne let go of it, and the first thing that plane did was said wah, like that, and it widened up to flying speed. All it had was horsepower holding it up, so I just leveled her off and flew backwards around for the first couple of laps, and when I got the lines tight and downwind, I went ahead and flipped it back over. But everybody was laughing after that flight. And Rusty, what kind of launch was that?
they can be quite challenging.
On its back right after the launcher lets go.
Gerald, I got something to show you from way back when.
Oh, wait, excuse me. Jack says looped is what that word was supposed to be. It looped so hard so that it was hard to launch. Okay. Yeah, Jack, we understand. All right.
Oh, looks
Any
like
idea what it is?
it looks like a Maori adder.
That's
Yeah,
Indian, Native American hatchet. And
Raw. It's a Maui battle axe from their center in Rotorua. Gerald, you know where that is?
Yeah, I've been to Rotorua. That's the one that's got the thermal vents and the mud, and it's a very, very big tourist attraction. Yeah.
are we talking a Polynesian island or something?
We're talking about New Zealand.
Oh,
Yeah.
are we?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
keep this on my wall. I got this when my wife and I were there in the North Island. 1988, we were there.
mm,
I keep it on my wall.
mm.
Piece
Oh,
of
it's a nice
jade.
piece. Yeah. It's very nice. It is very much a reflection of the Polynesian Maori culture.
Very much so.
So is New Zealand considered Polynesian?
Um, uh, the Maori are Polynesian, just like Maori that, or the Polynesians went as far north as Hawaii and as far out as Easter Island and as far south as New Zealand. So we're as far as the Polynesians went. But the Polynesians came to New Zealand about 1,500 years ago, and they mainly settled in the North Island because of the better weather. But yeah, they colonized all of the North Island, the South Island, and Stewart Island. They were pretty much settled in by the time the Europeans came about 400 years ago.
Yeah, boy, y'all are a long way from the from Asia. Anyway,
Yeah,
y'all aren't close to anything but Australia.
yeah. Oh, Fiji's sort of close, and the Cook Islands are close, but you'd find it hard to find it on the map.
Yeah.
But, my wife's family, she's got some blood from the Wallis Island, from the Cook Islands, and and they call them Cook Island Maori because they do have a connection. They sort of stopped off. They went to the Cook Islands, then New Zealand, so the language is very similar. Whereas my mother has got some blood from the Wallis Islands, which is a French protectorate that's north of Fiji. It's sort of a tiny little island group. But yeah, New Zealand's a melting pot of all different races. You have the English and French and German and other colonials that came and settled here 200 or so years ago. Similar to America, really, just a melting pot of all different nations, as well as an indigenous population. We've got an indigenous population of Maori, just as America has of their Indians. So, yeah, similar in many respects, and probably a similar ethnic makeup now too, where you've got a mix from all over the globe. And so, did you like?
Jorge, welcome tonight. How's everything in Colombia? Glad to have you in with us. Let's see, what have we got? 7 viewers right now, but we've had a heck of a lot more than 7 people come through, so they're just kind of touching in and doing touch and goes tonight.
Yeah. So did you like your trip to New Zealand, Ron, when you came here in '88?
Had a great time. We flew from the west coast of the States. We had a stop in Tahiti, and then we flew into Auckland. Once we got there, we rented a camper, and my wife and I spent the week circling the North Island in a camper. That, getting away from all the tourist attractions and just getting out and meeting the people. Had a great time.
My brother-in-law is retired, and he and his wife are touring the world, basically. They're scheduling a couple of vacations every year where they go some place they've never been before, and they've been to Antarctica, actually. Last summer they went to Antarctica. But I am going to suggest New Zealand, if he hadn't already thought of it, as a destination for him. And if he does choose that, I want to arrange somehow for him to get near you so that, y'all could meet. It'd be some kind of personal connection between my family and yours. And he's a cool guy. I mean, he's all about exploring and just drinking into culture wherever he goes.
Oh, I'd be very happy to meet him. But yeah, anybody that's happy to come down and meet us and do some flying in New Zealand would be even better. But,
yeah, well, he is a general aviation pilot, but he is not a model airplane pilot.
Have you hit him behind the handle though? Have you hit a?
No, he doesn't. He doesn't live near me, and I've never had him out to the field. Actually, he lives right near Triple Tree Aerodrome, but he's seen it from the air, but he's never flown in and landed there.
Yeah, a lot of full-size aviation pilots often cross over into aeromodeling. We've got
They do.
a number of
I mean, you
lovely-
know, Ted Fancher. There's lots of guys that I haven't realized that are on Stunthangar that are commercial aviation pilots and general aviation too. Terry Forbes is a general aviation pilot, isn't he?
yeah,
He
yeah,
was. I don't know if he still is, but that counts.
yeah. And Al Rabe was another one who was renowned for his airline flying, flying airliners for many years. But yeah, it's quite a common thing to get that crossover. A lot of them into small light aircraft or microlights and hang gliders. We see that as well. But yeah, I think it's just a general interest in aviation that carries you off into different areas. We always like to go and look at the aircraft museums and any shows that we can attend, full-size aircraft shows. It's great. The boys always enjoy it. My wife always enjoys going out to an air show.
Hmm.
But,
I
yeah,
drag my daughter out to them now, and she enjoys it as much as I do.
I hadn't been lately. We have our share of them around here because South Carolina is a fairly military state, and we've got a lot of Air National Guard and Air Force that's within easy, less than an hour driving distance from where I live. And yeah, and I might have to put that on my list of things to do that I hadn't done in a while. I've seen I've seen the is it the B-2 bomber? That's the stealth bomber, right? The big
Right.
giant stealth bomber. I've seen one of those up close and personal and flyover, and it's a monstrosity. It looks like a flying saucer flying over. But yeah, it'll blow your eardrums out. You don't got to plug your ears when that sucker comes by. But what amazes me the most is when they do the F-16 flybys, and the announcer will have you looking somewhere like this, and without realizing it, there's a group of F-16s approaching just over the speed of sound, I guess, or right at it. Because I don't think they're allowed to fly over the speed of sound in certain areas. But all of a sudden, they go like this. They go, you're looking this way, and they go, whoa, you know, and you never hear them until they're gone. And if they were coming to get you, you'd never know it.
yeah, it is incredible. I remember that when I was a kid going along to, I think it was the Whenuapai Air Base here in New Zealand, and they had the Royal Australian Air Force flying their Mirage jet fighters, and a similar effect. They announced them all too late in a way. Yeah, it's quite incredible. Yeah, but yeah, they actually flew from Australia to New Zealand. Never even stopped because I think the airstrip was too short and flew back to Australia. But
I wonder if they did that on one fueling. Oh yeah, I guess they did. That looks like a doable flight.
About 1,500 miles.
Yeah, that's not far. I don't know what the range on them is.
I suppose if they had auxiliary tanks and things, they could probably stretch it out. But I think the Australians have got the ability to do in-flight refueling and stuff too. But
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
yeah, we used to have quite a big air force here in New Zealand, and when I was young, I got to see a lot of the strike aircraft when they were still in existence. We used to have tanks and things that we don't really have now. We've sort of downsized into a defence force that is purely just a defence force. There's no strike capability anymore. But yeah, I still got to see the Skyhawks, and I suppose we had M60 tanks and Centurion tanks. All of that era is gone now, and they had larger frigates in their navy and stuff. But everything's very much reduced in scale now.
I think one of the most awesome things I ever saw was, I believe it was 1968. I was at the Nats in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. The Canadians brought a Vulcan bomber down for the air show and flew that thing low, slow, and huge.
That would have been
one of the most beautiful airplanes you'd ever see in the sky.
Yeah, I've got videos on them. I'd love to see one in the flesh, but yeah, I think they did actually visit New Zealand, but I would be too young to remember. I've seen footage of them here in New Zealand. But,
Speaking of, I'm sorry, Gerald, keep going.
It's just New Zealand used to have a big strike fighter wing, and one of the aircraft that we had here was the I think it was the Canberra, which was a sort of a medium-sized jet bomber, twin-engine jet bomber. I believe the Americans used them at 1.2 for high altitude reconnaissance work. But yeah, they were quite a striking aircraft, not quite in the same league as the Vulcan or the Victor, or some of the big V bombers that the English had, but they were quite impressive. So you've got those aircraft that just look so outstanding, like the B-1, the American Rockwell B-1. That's just such a brilliant looking plane. My favorite jet aircraft of all time would be the North American Hustler, B-58 or something.
58.
Yeah.
57 or 58.
Yeah, it's such a striking looking plane. But yeah.
I was watching one of Sparky's videos early in the week when they were flying scale at the Nats, and Ed Mason was flying a Constellation, and I'm wondering, and I'm sure it is, but is that the same as a super Constellation, or is there a larger and a smaller version of the same thing?
The Super Constellation is bigger, yeah.
Is it? Because this one was called just a Constellation, and it was a 4-engine plane.
Yeah, we've got a video. There's actually a very good YouTube video. I'll try and find the link and send it to you on the Constellation itself. And it's got a very interesting history where it starts as a military aircraft. And they were just so versatile. They really were one of the most incredible piston-engined aircraft ever made. And they really started off what we know as international airline travel. They were just such a practical, versatile aircraft with their super compound engines, and just they were the height of the piston engine era. I think that they really are a terrific looking plane, a bit like the Martin Mars, where it was just the best of whatever became of the flying boat era. And it's just amazing that those two have survived in Canada, that were used up till recently for firefighting. But yeah, they're another brilliant aircraft that was just the height of the technology of piston engines. But yeah, there's some really neat videos on YouTube. I always love watching them. The Great Planes ones and the documentary channel ones, they're just such neat ones. Often my wife will say, let's watch an aircraft documentary, and we'll sit down and we'll watch an aircraft documentary. And
I wish mine would say that. That's better than watching guys' grocery games or something. You know, that's what she enjoys those. I enjoy all that too, but yeah, it'd be nice to. When my son, before he moved away for good, we used to watch all kinds of cool stuff together, science shows and aircraft and any kind of machines and engineering shows. And I'm all by myself watching that stuff now, but I still enjoy it. Let me ask you this now. I don't know if either one of y'all know anything about scale flying, but do they fly as formal of a pre-arranged pattern in competition as we do in stunt? I watched Ed Mason fly, and of course he taxied, I think, a full circle and lifted off, and then flew, and then did a touch and go of 2 different lengths. He did a short one and a long one. I don't know if that was by design or by accident. And then landed, I think, and if I'm not mistaken, he taxied some and then lifted back off, and then landed and taxied and shut the engines down. And is that what a scale flight is all about, or is it up to the pilot to decide how to make that plane look the most scale in his presentation?
I haven't looked at the rules in a long time, but I believe there are 5 mandatory and 5 optional maneuvers that you can do in scale. In takeoff, taxi, landing, those are some of the mandatory ones. And I think a touch and go is in there too. And there's 5 optional things that you can do also.
yeah, I've flown scale quite a few times at our nationals, and our rules are likely to be a bit different to your rules. And we've been recently just flying off. They've just been judging on flight points only. They haven't been doing the static judging because of the lack of numbers for control line scale, but you choose the maneuvers that are appropriate to the aircraft. So you don't build a flying fortress and start doing figure eights and four-leaf clovers. You choose the maneuvers
I would
appropriate.
try to do a loop at least, but I don't know. In a competition, I suspect that would probably not be a good idea. But I can't fly a plane without wanting to try to loop it. But
Yeah, well, I think
through and through.
a lot of aircraft could, and I think if you're choosing an easier flying scale aircraft, that generally will be capable of doing some stunts. But if you choose a very difficult subject like a race plane or a very heavily laden bomber, you're limited to those flight maneuvers that involve taking off, taxiing, touch and go, and then you'll get additional scale points if you've got retracting undercarriage, multiple engines,
yeah,
and additional points too if you can have like navigation lights, or it might be a bomb drop, novelty aspects of it that the real aircraft could have done. And it's a fun aspect to it. I like doing scale, but stunt is something that definitely attracts more entries than scale because of the enormous amount of work, that personal effort you've got to put into it.
Yeah, these guys take years sometimes to build their planes.
And
when
they're notorious for not balancing their airplanes properly. You see a lot of them get wiped out on test flights.
yeah,
A lot of scale flyers don't do a whole lot of control line flying. A lot of them might be into free flight scale or radio scale, and it's a bit daunting for some of them that I've seen trying to fly because they just aren't familiar with what to do when something goes wrong. I think that's the big thing. If they lose power after takeoff, or it comes on the lines, they're often in a state of they freeze. I've seen it happen all too many times.
Very much so.
But that's where it's good to fly a variety of things. If you fly a combat model, it'll speed up your reactions. So when you fly your stunt model, it seems like slow motion. It's nice to fly a bit of radio because it teaches you better aerodynamics, how to build a straight model. I'm sure there are all different aspects of aeromodeling that help feed on each other. And if you can learn a bit about flying electric models, then you can fly in virtually any park. It's just one of the advantages of spreading your knowledge and interest.
The first year that Cox Engine Forums held the Reed Speed Half A contest, we had to have a standoff scale plane powered by a Cox 049, and I built a Mustang, P-51D Mustang, and put a Killer Bee engine in it and fed it with a pressure bladder. A lot of people don't believe you can feed a Reed valve engine with a pressure bladder, but this one did. And I flew my 10 laps. You know, you raise your hand and then fly 10 laps that are timed. And after that was over, I actually did a loop and then flipped it over on its back and flew an inverted lap, and then flipped it back over and landed it. And everybody got a kick out of that. And we just posted our flights on YouTube, and then Larry Ringer volunteered to judge just by counting our times and being a unbiased judge. And other than the organizer of the contest, I actually won the thing, so I got a prize for doing it. I think I won an engine or something like that, and or $50 at Cox International. I can't remember now, but that was fun. It was a cool little airplane. I'll see if I can find a picture of it in a little bit. But yeah, that was one scale plane that flew loops and inverted. It didn't do it very well, but it did it.
Do it, yeah. Well, it's a lot of fun in the sense that it's more of a challenge, and you've got something that you can look at the end of the lines and say, yeah, it's got my personal input in it. It looks like something, and it's something that's often been said. Different people watching you fly that aren't used to watching control line, they can look at a combat model and it doesn't mean anything, but they see a Mustang or a Spitfire and they know what it is, what it replicates, what it's supposed to be anyway. I might just zip out a minute. I can smell smoke, and I think the kids have done something funny with the fire. And I'll open a few windows.
Uh-oh.
That's not good. With all
while
the
he's doing
things around there, I don't want to even think about fire.
Let's see, read speed Mustang. Oh, here she is. Yeah, let me see if I can get a good picture of it. I got a few of them. Open you idiot. Okay, there it is. Yeah, it's even got a air scoop on it. Let's see. Okay, 1, 2. Yeah, I got 3 good pictures of it. And then the construction pictures. Okay, I'll wait till Gerald gets back and screen share that. I'll get back to you. Okay.
Sounds good. We can wait a little bit.
Yeah. I'm rearranging my desktop now. All right. Yeah, I hope nothing serious is burning.
True.
Let's see. Screen share. I'll go ahead and test it and make sure it's working right. But yeah, this one, we had to build it to exacting specifications as far as the wing area goes and all of that.
That's cute.
Yeah, let me see if I can make it to where it'll stay. Okay, lock onto that. And now,
Right.
okay, it's not, okay, all I can see right now is the airplane. It's not filling up the screen with a million windows, is it?
No,
Mm.
it just
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so now let me get this thing out of the way. Tell me when Gerald gets back. I can't see the.
But
Oh, you back? Okay. So that's it's not actually a killer bee because it's got a baby bee crank in it. And it's just a kind of a junk drawer killer bee. But see the air scoop I put on it right there? Push air in the back. And
Yep.
then the little old bladder right there. That little old run of bladder right there will swell up to the size of a full-size bratwurst sausage if you want to put that much fuel in it. Now, actually, when I flew it, I cut this length of fuel line and made it shorter so that the fuel was right up here over the CG, and so that doesn't move when it flies. But this little sucker flew pretty good. Here's another view of it. Reed Speed Mustang, and I was pretty proud of it. You can see the grain. I didn't cover it with any paper or filler or anything. It was a pretty quick build. And see, there's my plans that I drew up for it. I did that Thanksgiving Day at the dining room table, and see the wing. That's a piece of that SIG airfoil, and I'll just glue 2 of those face to face for the Stuntman 23 if that ever happens. And there it is in the building stages, and getting this engine to fit up right was a little tricky, but it was actually a pretty easy little build. I love a pile of sawdust. And my nacelle there is hollowed out behind it so I could get this tube to go around and open up in front of the engine's air intake.
yeah, that looks nice. Very, very
Yeah.
practical.
Good
Yeah.
job.
All right, let's see.
Those look like solid rubber wheels on it.
Let's see. Yeah, they are actually. I needed them for balancing weight. I think those came off of PT-19.
Oh, it's a very nifty, practical way of mounting the motor on a profile and
Yeah,
still keeping the shape.
I know. I'd never seen it done like that before, and it was kind of trial and error, but it worked out pretty well, and it didn't fly that fast. But of all of the people that entered the contest, I was only one of about 5 or 6 people that actually flew their finished product, and successfully anyway. But yeah, I was kind of proud of it, especially to win. Now I call it winning. The like I said, the guy that started, JP Velo is his name on Cox Engine Forum. I think his name is Jim Roselle. Stunthangar is what he calls himself. That's his real name. And he got interested in speed when he got into half A and started joining clubs, and they had a speed sector. And so he got fascinated with it and led to that. And he's still having those contests every year. The participation is kind of a problem. It's dwindling, but and I'm guilty too. I don't have time to build a new one, and I'm just glad I did it that one time anyway.
Yeah, we used to have a mid-speed contest as well for 049s, but the interest has dwindled, not the interest in doing it anymore.
Yeah, I think mine flew about 50 miles an hour or something like that.
And my brother built one, but he used, I can't remember what motor he used. It was another, a famous little half A motor that was quite a grunty one from the 60s.
The Gilbert?
Not the Gilbert. It was a very compact motor, very, very small compact motor. It looked a bit like the Wenmac, but it wasn't. It
wasn't the Tester's pipe bomb, was it?
I think it was an Arden 049.
I've heard that. I've heard of that name, but I don't know anything about what it looks like or does.
Yeah, I have to ask him. So it's a pity if I could get him to come on Stunthangar, he could add a lot to it because he's very knowledgeable. But I suppose it's that same thing, that there are a lot of people out there that have got a huge amount of knowledge and just hope they can share it with others, because it's easily lost. Some of the brilliant models that I've seen made in the past, and you sort of wonder what happened to that model. You know, there was a guy in the North Shore Club, I remember, who built a DC3, or it was painted up as a Dakota, a C47, and it was the large model. He had two OS-25 FSRs. He had this free line control, and he did it with the World War II D-Day invasion stripes, but he went one step further. He towed a glider, one of those D-Day gliders, behind his DC3, and his son flew the glider, and he flew the DC3, and then they'd do an air launch. He'd release it from his DC3 as it flew. And I remember that when I was a young lad flying, and it's not something you forget. I remember him building it over a couple of years. He'd bring it along.
Did the glider just have a built-in circling turn, or did it have radio control for another pilot to work when he let go of it?
It was a control line glider, so it just glided on down after the DC3 released it, so it would do like a lap of glide and come in, but without a propeller on it, they will glide a while. They don't necessarily just fall straight down.
Yeah.
It was something very impressive. I always wonder what happened to it. It was just such an enormous.
Yeah, I'd love to see somebody do that.
And I suppose the C40, the Super Constellation at the Nats that you talked about, it's the sort of model you hope it goes to a museum one day. You hope it was preserved and looked after by somebody or by an organisation. I know they've got some brilliant models at the AMA Museum, and I've looked at videos of the AMA Museum, some very important models that are historically significant. We don't have
Wayne has a very old Super Connie kit that an old guy gave him, an old guy that was downsizing like so many of them do, and he's never attempted to build it. It looks like just way too much unless you're dedicated to it, but it's got beautiful parts. It's got spun aluminum cowling and just everything is just premium, and so I'd like to see one like that somebody's built sometime. I don't think Wayne has any intention of tackling that, though. He's just not into that stuff anymore. Free flight's been his love lately. Soaring.
Yeah, a lot of people get into indoor events here too because of the weather. I suppose it's probably the same in Eastern Europe too. You want to model over winter and fly over winter, then indoor events are an attraction, and I wouldn't mind trying to build some more indoor control line models. They had one event at Whangarei north of us earlier in the year, and the Saturday was Stunt and Sunday was indoor and they had indoor control line. And I just thought I should have made a model and gone along for the control line indoor. That would have been a lot of fun too.
All
In the
electric, I presume.
yeah, all electric, yeah. But having seen Niger Berger fly his indoor model, you realise well, there's no limit. You don't just have to fly straight and level indoors. As long as the hall's big enough and your model's aerobatic enough, you could be doing a full F2B schedule indoors. So
I watched a video of Igor Berger flying in a gymnasium with a very small electric plane, but flying a perfect full pattern with it.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There obviously some very talented people out there, and they've reduced the model down to a very finely thought out, carefully considered, extremely lightweight model to fly it on 5 meter lines. Let's say at about 15 feet.
Yeah.
And it's all complete a pattern. Must have been
Yeah. 15 or 20, somewhere in there. I'm trying to remember what I flew my little reed speed on. I think I only had 15 or 20 on that. No, I did not. I'm sorry. I had 35. We were, yeah, the rules said 35. So I flew it on 35 feet.
Yeah, most of the saw models tend to fly on 35.
Yeah.
And I've traditionally used 35 feet.
My baby Streaks and Little Satan fly on 40 or 45 if it's a calm day. But they're, I mean, they're extremely powerful, power to weight ratio too. So they'll keep the lines tight.
And are they they're TD or a Novell?
Got a Norvell on one baby flight Streak, a TDO 51 on the other flight Streak, and a TDO 49 on the Little Satan. On Little Satan, you know, it's got that big block for a radial mount on the front, but I got one of the round screw-in aluminum back plates that's got a ring of holes around it. I bought it from TexasTimers.com, and so you can mount the engine in any position, just drill the holes in the right place, and so I've got it mounted to the Little Satan like that, and which is good if you have an engine problem and you want to swap engines. You just leave the back plate attached and unscrew the engine from the back plate, put it aside, and screw the new engine right onto it.
Oh, that's
pretty
cool. They don't unscrew on their own, though.
So what?
They don't unscrew on their own. They don't have to work.
No, I had never had one come loose. You can screw them on pretty tight. Hey, Charles, how you doing tonight? I was hoping we'd get some more participation in here. Me and Ron and Gerald have been in a groove pretty good, and YouTube crowd's good. Jorge's out there.
All right. Hey, Jorge, in the crowd.
Yeah, Jack Snavely, David Eskins, R.W. Bishop, Bob, and so yeah, they're coming and going, doing touch and goes. It's only about 6 at a time, but they keep coming in and out.
All right, good.
So
what you guys been talking about?
What you been doing now? Since you usually do your flying during the week, do you have any flying stories to tell us tonight?
Yeah, I actually made some progress. I was talking to a friend of mine, Walter Hicks, and I was telling him how the Strager's flying pretty good, but I still would like it to be a little bit faster, above 45 degrees. And he goes, well, have you tried removing any head shims? And I haven't, so today I removed a head shim, one of them, and I did notice an improvement. And then I went to get some more. You know me, I always want more. So I took the head off, and these shims are hard to get off, and so they get stuck together, the head shims.
You got to go at them with an X-Acto knife, don't you?
Yes, exactly. So I had a not quite an X-Acto knife, but a sharp blade, and I separated another one, removed it. But in the course of removing that one, I might have deformed the rest of the shims. So when I put the head back on there, I had a leak, So I didn't discover the leak until I had fueled up the fuel tank, and I'm ready to choke the motor, and I could hear the air leak, And I'm like, oh man, I gotta take this fuel out this motor, and I'm by myself like usual. So I'm trying to empty the tank, and so I tilt the tail down, break off the Raby rudder.
Oh,
So I'm just like, oh man, and I know I could have just maybe super glued the Raby rudder on, because the way I make the elevator, I mean the horn on the rudder, it's just made out of laminated wood, and I have a little recess that it goes into. But I didn't want to take a chance on it coming loose in flight with super glue. I wanted to really get some epoxy in there. So it was pretty good. That was my second flight I had done, and so I just said, oh, forget it. Plus it was 90 something degrees outside. I don't know what it was, 95 or so, and I said, no, forget it. But I did notice an improvement, so I'm so anxious for next Friday to go out there with a sealed up engine and try and see what I have.
You
well,
do realize that today is Friday the 13th.
You know what? Well, that explains a lot.
It's Saturday the 14th here anyway. I'm past that.
Bastille Day and our wedding anniversary, 34th wedding anniversary tomorrow.
Really? You got that married on the,
Congratulations.
but you didn't get married on a Friday. It just happened to be the 13th, right?
Saturday the 14th we got married. Yeah,
Okay. Well, happy anniversary.
1984.
Well, tell Holly I said happy anniversary.
I will.
So that was
Yeah.
kind of disappointing for me, but I'm still excited. When you have an increase in whatever, increase in flying, increase in performance, that's always very, very exciting. Can't wait to get back out there.
Well, did you take anything else to fly in the absence of the Strega?
You know what I did, but after I had unpacked it, we packed everything up. I go to get to my vehicle, and sure enough, I brought I had a built up, what is that thing called? I treat it like a redhead stepchild. What is that thing called?
While you're thinking, I'll say Minnesota Mike's here. Hey, hey, Mike. Hope you're doing well tonight.
Oh, Oriental. I had a
Ah.
Oriental in the back of the Blazer, but I was just too disgusted and tired to set my circle back up. I set up a perimeter of
Yeah. If you're
stones.
disgusted and tired, that's no time to be getting the Oriental out.
Yeah. And the Oriental has its own issues that I need to trim out anyways. It's such a departure from the Strega. The Oriental, I don't know what the Oriental weighs, but my guess would be somewhere in the 50 ounces range.
Somewhere around there is probably about right.
And the Strega is, over 70, 76. Yeah. And it's like flying a beast and then flying a kitten.
Yeah.
This is where you need a model that's very similar to the Strega. If that's your favorite, you need a similar model to have as a backup.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hopefully this Pathfinder, which I haven't been making a lot of progress on lately, hopefully when I get that Strega, I think the Pathfinder's gonna be a lighter plane too, but hopefully it's gonna make up for it, and that'll fly smaller and tighter maneuvers, hopefully.
Well, I suppose it'll help set the direction of where you go next time out anyway. You'll have something to compare with, something similar to compare with, and make improvements from there.
Yeah, I mean, they're totally different. They do help each other, because when I noticed, matter of fact, I remember one of the gentlemen I fly with, he thought that the Oriental flew better than the Strega. That's how it presents. That's how it presents itself from outside the circle. But for me, inside the circle, there's no contest. The Strega is so much better than the Oriental.
Yeah, Oriental's got a big following of people that love the way it flies. But I think there's a lot of variations between Oriental kits, ARFs, and production runs too. So.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely. That's well, even Jose Modesto on the forum, he's been, he's obviously a fan of the Strega or Big Jim Greenway's planes, and the Strega is it's kind of patterned after the. Even when he announced, he admitted it on his videos that the Strega he built was a modified pattern master or slightly modified pattern master
with a big gem wing.
Huh?
With a big gem wing.
Yeah, Big Jim wing and moments and stuff like that. So, but Jose Modesto was saying on the forum that the Strega that Wendy flew was about 62 ounces. It wasn't like what I'm flying.
Have you ever flown a Magnum?
No, I've never flown Magnum. I really haven't. I've seen a Magnum. I actually at the contest here in California. I have a friend, John Wright, and I have assisted him several times, and he has a modified Magnum. It looks like a Magnum looks like a ME of 109. It looks really good from a distance because it's such a warrior. I don't know how old that plane is, but it's in a venerable plane for him, and it was a Magnum.
Yeah. I don't know what the average weight of Magnums is. I don't know if mine was overly fat or not at 72. But I don't know if that's normal for a Magnum or if they're lighter than that if built properly.
I think it's very hard to get them under 70 from what I've read. My one's still sitting here. I sort of got stuck because I was trying to decide whether to make it 2-piece or 1-piece, worried about the weight and thinking maybe I should just make it 1-piece. And I was also worried about the Fox fork that I'd set it up for because it was hard to get a good run out of the Fox fork with the standard Venturi, and I played around with my other model trying to get that run better before I put it in the Magnum. I know I need to go back and work on it, but I seem to lose a lot of time just rebuilding models while the kids destroy them.
Yes.
Yeah, do a couple this week as well.
Yeah, that's just part of the course of getting better. I have a friend who's been crashing planes, and I said, man, I wish there was another way, but it's part of the path, to get to the point where you don't crash anymore. You go through crashing.
Yeah, I had to do a fairly intensive rebuild on the Stunter, and after that I got them flying some more combat wings, and the boys were really excelling themselves the other day. We were out there flying in our paddock while it was calm, and the weather was brilliant, but the ground was very wet, but they had a whale of a time, and it was so soft when they planted it, they didn't do any damage at all. Even the props were intact, the nylon prop.
Wow.
They both put in 3 really good flights, so I was happy with that, and it saved me a whole lot of rebuilding. But at the same time, I did lose a motor. I was flying a larger model and it broke the crankshaft. I was telling Rusty before. And the price of a new crankshaft, it's probably cheaper to buy a second-hand motor off eBay. The crankshaft would probably be, it's like £30. And then by the time I import it, it's silly. It's for a crankshaft.
What motor was this that you lost the crankshaft on?
It was a PAW 19, or it's 3.2 cc's. Diesel, and diesels are always hard on parts. You're always either wearing out the rods or breaking cranks. If they're a really well-made diesel, they don't seem to have any trouble, but this one was a cheaper model. They do like a baseline one, and this was the baseline one that people normally use for low combat. And then they've got a ball race version, a twin ball race version, and then there's a tune version. I don't imagine the tune versions would bust, but the cheaper ones I don't think they're as well balanced. They run a lot rougher. And it was running well, and then it just let out a small bang, and that was it. The propeller was freewheeling, and Otto was saying, "You broke your crankshaft, Dad." And I thought, maybe I just lost my rod, but no, it had pulled the little pin off the crankshaft, and that was it.
Oh man, yeah. No fun. I've actually had a broken crankshaft. I think I told you about it last year or so on the Strega, as a matter of fact.
That would be
that Magnum I was talking about had actually a Merco like 60 as a Merco that was bored out. I think it ended up having it to be a Merco 65 or 68, but it's a nice running motor. It has a really strong 4.2 brake. Speaking of that Magnum plane, is a real nice motor.
Our last show, that the Merco was such a pretty nice looking engine.
Yeah.
I'd never
Yeah.
seen one before, and the only place I'd ever seen one mentioned was in the plans of my Twister, and I don't remember what size it was, but I think we decided it was probably a 35.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That they definitely nice motors. I haven't I did run a Merco 40 on my Twister.
I'd bet that's what it was. Recommended, yeah.
It was a nice motor, but the Merco 60 I thought was even better motor. That's a real nice motor.
Mm. Yeah, they're very light. Another one that would be quite a nice motor is a stunt motor that's very commonly available is the KMB 61. My brother used to use those on his stunters. They ran very well, but they're a little bit heavier than the Super Tiger and the Merco. Probably similar weight to the HB 61. They're more of a heavy-duty radio control motor, the KMB. But the KMB 40s were quite popular for stunt for many years. My brother's used one of those as well. He's got one of those on a big Acrobat, the KMB 40, and Otto uses one on his Wildcat. And they give a nice run. They're quite light, but for some reason, there's not that many people use the KMBs on stunt models. I haven't really seen that many people using them here anyway.
How about the Vicos? Do you come across any Vicos over there?
Just the older Vicos. I've got a Vico 61, and it is a little bit lighter than the KMB 61. I thought it'd be a nice motor to build a model for, but I'm too slow building it to have tried it out. But I've used the KMB Sportster, the 45 Sportster on a model, and that was quite a nice motor, nice run, very torquey, sort of relaxed run out of the Sportster engine. And I saw a cheap Sportster 65 on eBay and then snapped that up just to compare it and see what it was like. And once you took out that heavy carburetor, it wasn't too heavy. It was quite a reasonable weight. And people just said they're a very bulky, heavy motor, but being an AAC engine, they're not that heavy really. There's no heavy liner in it. And once you take off the stock muffler and the stock carb, the KMB 65 Sportster looks like it could be a reasonable stunt motor, going on the weight and going on their reputation as being a torquey, tractor style engine rather than a high revving motor. It could be a nice motor with a 13.6 or something like a Super Tiger 60. I don't build quick enough.
I heard that the Vico 60 is the American Super Tiger 60. I have a friend who had a Vico 60, and I just never got a chance, or he never got a chance to get it done. But I would have loved to see how that motor ran. Supposedly it's a good motor, the Vico 60. A little bit heavier than the Super Tiger, but makes up for it in power.
Now, Clarence Lee did a lot of tuned versions of them. He was, I think, the one that designed all that Vico line, and he'd do tuned versions, and I'd see them in the RCM magazines advertised for sale as tuned Vico 61s. And I imagine if he'd add the PDP ports, the periodirectional porting to them to improve the power, but I'm sure he used to fly stunt as well, but it would be a long time ago now. Clarence Lee, I don't know if he's still with us or not, but he was certainly the engine man from the 80s that I remember all the time reading the magazines. He did a lot of reviews, but I don't know if he flew stunt competitively. And I know he flew control line, but I don't know till when. I think he flew speed, actually. But maybe somebody will chime in and tell us. But yeah.
Didn't K&B buy out the Vico line?
Yeah, they did, yeah. And then Makoa now own KMB, but they produce most of the parts. It's a good motor to use in the sense that the parts are easily available, and there's plenty of them available second-hand. So if you're thinking of a motor you can pick up off the shelf and run as a control line motor tomorrow, the KMBs have got to be one of them. There's so many out there. And a lot of the motors that we've had come into the country, they've been great motors, like the Evolution motors and the different ASPs and Thunder Tigers and Tiger Sharks. There's a whole swag of motors, but you can't get them easily. There's no consistency on their availability. And at least, with the KMBs, they're out there, just like the Foxes. There's so many that were made in the past. There's just a huge amount of them out there that are often in very good order. You often pick up motors that have hardly been run, or they've just been run in, and you realise, well, there's plenty of life in that one. And they're not expensive to replace. If something does go wrong, if something breaks, you can replace them. That's why I've often liked to use my different Fox engines, because they're easy to get and easy to set up, and you can play around with them, not worrying that you're going to lose some expensive engine that you can't afford to replace easily. But
Right.
it's probably the New Zealand approach, where we've got limited resources here, limited availability of motors locally anyway. I did buy one recently, though, that I thought was a great motor that'd be neat to try. And I just bought it because it was cheap locally here in New Zealand, and it was one of those OS 55 AX ones. And they're the current crop. It's like the motor that replaced the OS 46 LA. It's the ball race engine, and again, it looks very heavy. It's got a very grab it.
When Gerald steps away, always a guy get all the planes in the background.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. This is the female plane.
Different models, different types of models.
Yeah.
A different sort of flying.
Keep inspired, just like those modeling magazines keep us all inspired. We need to keep inspired in life. But yeah, that's the 55.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is a nice looking motor.
Yeah, that's the chap went on a trip to the States, and he bought a pair of them, and he decided he didn't really need a second one. The first one was going well enough. He was a radio flyer, and he listed this one on Trade Me, our local auction site. And when you take the carburetor out of it, it's not that heavy at all. It's only like 12 ounces.
Yeah, it's a really pretty motor.
Yeah, for a 55, it's supposed to be a very powerful engine, and they're supposed to be quite a torquey engine, because a lot of the modern motors are designed to run at lower revs with a lower power. The power band is a bit lower down for noise reasons, so they recommend like a 13.6 prop for it. So,
Recommend what size prop for that?
I think a 13.6. I'll just grab the instructions, and I can tell you the instructions here.
Yeah. Wow, interesting.
But yeah, it's the replacement for the LA 46. So I thought, well, it would be interesting to know what comes next. If you,
I've seen the magazines, but I have never seen the motor like you just showed me. It's intriguing.
ready to fly would be the way to solve it. Would be to buy a Strager and put it in it, and you'd know instantly. But if I can do a bit more building, and hopefully I can tell you how it goes for too long. I'll just set up the carb. Running in.
Strager is such a draggy airplane. It needs a big, powerful brute of a motor.
Yeah, you said it's got very large flaps. You had to.
Yeah, I shaved my flaps almost a half-inch off my flaps already.
Yeah, it was really a plane of its era. Really, it's probably a design from the 80s in a sense, when the Windy was at the top of its form.
Right.
But I suppose the Magnum's similar. It's a plane from another era. Mike Pratt, I think, designed it. Yeah. No, I think I'll have to see. I can't find it.
That Strager has the flaps all the way out to the wingtips.
Yep, all the way, full span. Today was actually my 382nd flight on that plane.
Oh, that's good going. The control system.
What?
Your control system is still crisp. You haven't picked up much slop on it.
It's I mean, there is a little bit of a slop in it, but it's I don't know. Maybe that's why it flies so good inverted. I don't know. You know, it's it just solid. I mean, it just flies really nice. So it just have a little bit of slop, but I hope to one day take care of that. It's not so much the control system that's slop as much as the flap horn is moving inside the flaps. You know what I'm saying? The flap horn just kind of moves.
And they're just, are they stuck in a lucky box or something?
Yeah, the smallest, teeniest lucky box that can barely hold that wire. That's where the slop is. I suspect.
It's got a little slack room inside of there then.
Yeah.
So it'd be
And
very hard.
really small little piece of plywood that's actually holding that wire. It's I need to replace the flaps, and that's one of those things I hope to do. But it's not that important, you know. And I got other things I'm trying to do, and it's kind of like one of these days I'll get to it.
You might find that you like it better with a little bit of slop.
Yeah, I know Wendy was a big proponent of having slop in its control systems.
The slop was on the flaps, not on the elevator, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, and that's what I have. I essentially have slop in the elevator. I mean, in the flaps. Excuse me. Yeah, it's just a coincidence that I have it there, but that's what I have. And you know, I don't. Strega is my favorite flying plane until I have something better, and then I'll kick it down the alley. You know.
Here it is. I found it. Propellers. It says 12.7, 12.8, 13.6, 13.7.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a fairly big range of props, but yeah, they're all a lot bigger than the traditional 11.6, 11.7 people have used on a 60 in the past.
Wow. Yeah, that motor is intriguing. It really is. I think that'd be nice on even like on the Thundergazer, which is a smaller plane than my Strega. Because I hope to build a Thundergazer maybe next year.
Yeah, I got that one for a good price. I thought it's worth a try. Sometimes if you're just looking around, you'll spot something and it's worth giving it a try. Like sometimes you'll see a kit on eBay or locally at an auction, and it's
absolutely. Yeah.
worth a stab at.
That's one thing I do buy typically is good buys.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's just like it has to be an exceptional buy for me to pull the trigger.
Yeah.
I have plenty other motors. I'm at the point now where I don't really need another motor. I mean, I didn't have much success with my K77, but that is touted as a very high-end motor. You know, it's a clone PA75 basically. You know, and then my Stalker is running really good. I'm beginning to figure that thing out, and I do have some 40 VFs and 46 VFs, which are kind of old school motors, but those are very good motors still today. You know, I mean, there's some competitive models that still use the OS Max 40 and 46 VF.
Yeah, Randy Smith's a real proponent of them. He always talks very highly about them. Being a very good power package, very good power to weight.
And mine are all stock, and I only have one pipe, and only one header, I think, between the 3 VFs I have. But so I mean, and then I have some Super Tiger 60s, like 2 or 3 of them, and one has been massaged and by a guy named Frank Bowman.
Yeah.
And
made the rings.
Yeah, he's known for rings, but he's also a really good engine man. He just was so busy with the ring business, he didn't do motors anymore. But you know, as a personal favorite for me, you know, I was always telling him I sure would like to have a real nice. I wanted a K motor. I don't know if you're familiar with the Super Tiger 60. That's considered the K version, but I wanted a K version, and but he called me one day and he said he had a real nice motor for me. And we negotiated the price, and I hadn't even put that motor on the plane yet. You know, it's like sometimes you want something. I tell my kids all the time, wanting isn't having.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's bad English, but it's bad English, but it means it makes so much sense. Wanting isn't having. And I, you know, wanted the Super Tiger 60 so bad, a real nice one. I finally have one, and I haven't even ran it.
I've made the mistake of announcing that I've wanted this or that, and damned if somebody won't sooner or later show up with one for a real good deal. And if I send them, you know, $30 or whatever, then it's mine. And I'm like, internally, I'm going, oh God,
Yeah.
you know, I'm obligated. You know,
Yes, you're obligated to come out.
I always was fascinated with the Cox. What is it? It doesn't even look like a Cox. In fact, K&B might have made the later ones, but
Conquest.
the what?
The Conquest?
Conquest, yeah.
Yeah.
And rear exhaust, and it's a beautiful engine, and it looks like it'll run like a scalded dog. But I was announcing my fascination. You know, oh man, I'd love to have one of those. And sure enough, a buddy shows up with one, and got it just for me at a swap meet, and so I bought it from him. Now I got it on my engine shelf, and never have cranked it up or anything. But yeah, that's another one on my bucket list is to build a build a plane for it. And what is that? That's a 15, I think.
Yeah, it's a 15.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a nice looking engine. It'd be great with a pressure bladder, and I think mine's actually, it's got a control line Venturi on it because you can get them both ways.
Yeah.
So it's a good looking engine, and it does say Cox on the side. I think later ones were made by K&B, but this is a Cox version, original.
Yeah, it was a matter I always admired as a kid. I thought I'd love one of those, and there was a hobby shop in Auckland City that had them, and they had the radio ones. I don't think they had the control line one, but they were very expensive. They were not a cheap engine, and I think I opted for a Super Tiger instead. But the Conquest was a nice looking motor. Oh, yeah, Ron's got one.
Oh, let me click on Run.
Hey, click on you, Ron. All right.
Let's see what you got there, bud.
Oh, wow.
Higher.
Hold it a little higher. Hold it higher.
Yeah. They're a bit like the Rossi or OPS.
Oh, wow, that is a beautiful motor.
Beautiful, yeah. That looks just like mine, except somebody's rounded off the exhaust ports on the corners.
This one hasn't been run. Brand new box.
It looks like it's probably got a fine thread needle valve anyway already.
Wow,
Yes.
that's beautiful.
Does it have a pressure nipple in the back plate?
Yep, it's in there. It's got a plastic.
Oh, mine's got a metal back plate. I don't know if it's got a nipple in it or not. Be easy enough to put one.
There's a nipple in there. I can see it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a nice looking motor.
Yeah, they're a brilliant looking motor. They look like a real racing motor.
If it didn't say Cox, you'd never guess that was a Cox engine.
You think it's an Italian thoroughbred like an OPS or Rossi, but
Yeah.
they were very nice.
I'm
For
not
what it's worth, I had to move 3 Fox rear exhaust 36s to get at this.
No.
Still in the box.
Wow. Now, does that motor have a header, or you just run it with no muffler or no header, or what?
These are all from before the muffler rules took effect.
Okay.
So if there's a
Okay.
muffler made for the Cox, but the Foxes, I bought those about 6 months before they kicked in the muffler rules. You can't get a muffler for it.
with a rear
Fox never
exhaust.
made a muffler.
With a rear exhaust, it seems like you just about have to have a pipe of some sort.
It's an internal thread on the manifold for it. I'll show you.
Thank you, Ron.
Yeah, they made
That's a
some
pretty motor.
Yeah, you can understand my fascination with it. It really is nice to have. And I appreciate the guy getting it for me.
Oh, I bet. Oh, I bet.
Never sprung on it myself either. So I'm kind of glad, that he did do that for me.
Yeah. There's some motors like that you just feel, I really want to have one of those. It's something you remember from your past. I suppose for some people it's a motorbike, or for some people it's a car or something. But for us aero modelers, it often is that motor you remember from when you were young. Something
Yeah.
I've got a new favorite YouTube site. It's called Old Car Memories, and they talk a lot about American muscle cars and obscure ones that you've forgotten about, like the AMX, the Machine, is what it was called, and they were. I mean, they just show some fascinating cars, and the sound and the recordings are really great. You forget the difference between the thump of an iron engine.
Wow. Now, what is that, Ron?
Fox 36 ball bearing rear exhaust.
Wow.
Now, is that a racing or a pylon motor, or is that a stunt motor?
Ball bearing pressure intake.
So the exhaust pipe just presses onto that.
It's threaded on the
Oh, it's
inside of
threaded.
the
I see.
exhaust.
That's right. You said that. Okay.
This is a version, and the reason I have these things is I was a carrier flyer. When they first brought out the profile carrier, you had to use plain bearings. That's what this one is. Same engine with plain bearings in it.
It's probably a big difference in power too, isn't it? Between plain bearing and ball bearing.
Can you read it?
Yeah, now I can. Yeah, the carrier.
36 profile carrier. Something.
Engine, yeah.
2300.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, carrier special.
That's what SP is. Yeah. Okay.
Same engine as this, except no bearings. It's plain bearing. These are plain bearing engines.
Yeah, they did the same for combat. They did a slow combat versions with a plain bearing, maybe a rear needle bearing. Then they did the twin bull race 36X combat version. So Fox really tried to cater for every market very, very carefully. The motor was made for quite a short period of time. It's quite rare.
He probably did one run of these engines and that was it.
Now, a carrier motor needs to do what? I know a stunt motor is kind of a strange thing, but I don't know anything about carrier motors.
I don't know much, but I've watched them enough to realize that they need to have enough horsepower, a wide horsepower curve, because I think it's like they are flying a simulated sortie, because once they take off, they fly around real slow.
7 laps high speed, 7 laps low speed.
Yeah, and when that high speed is high speed, I'm talking about
it's 100 plus.
Yeah, they scream, and then it's got a prop hang. You know, at a low speed, it's got to sit there at a certain number of degrees, and the guy stands out in the middle with a big triangle to eyeball.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing. I saw that at the Nats. I think one of the videos
you cannot exceed 60 degrees bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
The difference between these two is one is a Venturi, the other is an RC carb. Carrier is an RC carb. This was a combat, must have been a combat special or something like that at the time. So it's got a standard Venturi, wide open Venturi.
Interesting.
How is the dependability and metallurgy on those high performance engines compared with, say, the Fox Stunt 35, which are known for great variations in their fitment?
Fox is known for that.
Depends what era, really, I think.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Fox factory video. I had to skip through some of it, but that was interesting.
Yeah, it reminded me of my early years working at Maxwell and Nelson Engineering, and it was a small machine shop like that, and very noisy, and quite hard work. But we were producing small scale castings and machining them, and it was similar construction in a way.
As you can tell, I'm a junkie for engines.
Yeah, I think most aero modelers tend to, unless you're into electric purely. It's a big attraction. It's a big part of the hobby is tuning those little engines. I like the diesels as well, just the variety, different engines. And sometimes I've mismatched something chronically. Talking about the Conquest before, I bought one of the KMB 6.5, the pylon racing motors, the rear induction.
6.5 and 7.5. I got them both.
Yeah, I got the 6.5 one and stuck it on my Stunter. It was the front induction one with the rear exhaust. But, oh, what a mismatch. It did not want to pull a big prop. It was completely
RPM.
no, that was the worst mismatch I ever did. But that was when I was a teenager. I just wanted to try everything out, and I thought this motor's got to be so powerful. It's got to fly my Stunter really well. And of course, trying to get it to even pull a big prop was impossible. And you do the motor no good trying to overload it with a big prop. Even an 11.6, I think, was about the smallest it would happily run on. It did not have the Stunt run, but you learn these things when you
Yeah. You know, it's only been in my
on 7.6, 7.7 props. Or excuse me, not 7, 9.7s, 9.7s and 9.6s.
Yeah.
It's only been in my 21st century resurgence of the hobby that I knew anything about what to do with pitch and length. That was a big missing part of my learning curve that I'm glad I got filled in.
Sorry, Rusty, you were talking about another website before for classic cars. I'll just jot down the name of it again. Sorry, and I'll have a look.
Oh, Old Car Memories.
Was that Sparky's Nat's video?
This is we've got off on a tangent. Sorry, we were just talking about old cars, old American muscle cars, and being a softie for old American muscle cars. I thought I'd better go and have a look after. The wife and Otto in particular will enjoy looking at that. So
they explain a lot about the history of certain engines and certain car models that I never would have known and realized I've talked about things and been completely wrong that now I know better since I've been watching this site. I've looked up the old hot rods that I've had, like the 69 Chevelle SS. My first car ever was a 67 Nova Super Sport with a 283. I had a couple of 67 Camaros. One was my race car, and I've had a 69 Camaro with a 350 4-bolt in it.
Nice cars.
Yeah, but that's a fun YouTube site when you just want a little mindless entertainment.
yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. But yeah, there's that crossover between people that enjoy cars and motorbikes, and Sparky was obviously really big into his Harley and motorbikes, and Daryl from Canada big into his Harleys. There'd be lots of people that cross over into other things. I think it's just that love of motors generally, and aeromodeling, we've got that connection.
That's why I bought my first control line plane, a P-51 at Western Auto, you know, and it had an engine in it. That's why I wanted it. If it hadn't had an engine, I would have walked right past it. And ever since I was a child, I've loved aviation. I see pictures of me when I was a little kid with toy planes, but combining one with a real engine that would fly on real fuel, that was just cool. And that Mustang wouldn't start for anything, so Dad took it back and exchanged it for a Stuka, and it started up and was promptly re-glued about 5 times. And Dad was a master gluer, so he got me about 5 or 6 flights out of it, and then came home with a PT-19 and a box of rubber bands, and my control line career was officially started.
I think that should be an official title for a dad, is master gluer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Changing batteries and gluing things, and
yeah. Even my kids, they present things that are broken to me, and they're like, well, can't you just epoxy it, or, you know, and I'm like, well, there's not enough left for it to really hold, you know. I need to do more than just epoxy, maybe fiberglass,
Yeah.
and epoxy it, you know.
Yeah.
But we definitely are master gluers.
Dad, can't you do something with this?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, challenging me. Can't you fix this, Dad? When I'm in my side, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show you. I can fix this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's the big range of fix-its, yeah, whether it's the wife with the handbag or the shoe, or it's the kids with change the batteries, please, or somehow glue this plastic thing together that's not worth the glue I'm using. It's, yeah, funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have 3 kids, and I'm always telling them, look, I can't keep up. And there's things that I want to fix for my own self, you know?
Unfortunately, Minnesota market might see I'm selling my muscle car, which is sad to hear, but yeah, sometimes you can't keep everything and things have to change.
Yeah. I am getting tired, guys. We got a good conversation going, but I can't hang anymore.
I understand. I came late. I was actually sleeping early. I took a nap to get on the show, and my wife and kids tried to wake me up. They go, "Don't you want to get on the call?" I'm like, yeah, I do.
If I had nothing to do tomorrow, it would be different. I'd be able to hang in and have some more coffee, but I'm not going to drink any more coffee at this time of night. And so we got an anniversary, and we're going to honor that properly. And it's already here, actually. It's
yeah.
12.
Have a good anniversary day, and
Yeah.
make sure you
However, the anniversary of my bachelor party's not over yet. It goes on till after 2, I think. And that was quite a party. I smoked my amplifier in the middle of Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo by Rick Derringer. I mean, smoke actually came out of it. So everybody thought the music was over, but I whipped out toolbox, went over there, jerked the cover off, ripped into it, started cutting wires, and everybody said no, 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 and I just tied knots in one side so I knew which ones to reconnect, and replaced a resistor in the power drive, the audio driver circuit, and slapped it back together and cranked it back up, and the music was back on in 20 minutes.
Wow, that's impressive.
And you know, my future brother-in-law's on the couch saying, wow, service on demand, you know, instant service." So but that was fun. We had a great party, and I had the mother of all hangovers the next day. Luckily, the wedding wasn't until 6 o'clock. No, wait a minute. The wedding was at 1 o'clock. And then we had a big party afterwards. So I got a little hair of the dog that bit me. It was an outdoor party. So anyway, that's when it all started.
So, Rusty, did you have a resistor in your back pocket, or did you go to Radio Shack?
Oh, I had a sack full of resistors and capacitors and transistors and stuff.
Wow.
I was an electronics dude, man. I'd
just
been I'd already finished electronics school by that time.
Well, yeah, I was an electronics guy too. Back in the day, I was an electronic technician.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for Hughes Aircraft.
Oh.
But that was a different lifetime ago. The only thing I can do now is just find opens and shorts, but I used to love troubleshooting.
Yeah, I still got my old ICO oscilloscope. You'll see it in workshop pictures sometimes. It's the one you always see in movies or something in the background with the round green screen and the grid on it, you know, and the silver face, and stands about yay tall. And you could buy them as kits too, but my mom gave it to me for my birthday when I was about 18. And I took it to college with me and fixed people's radios and TVs, stereos when, you know, for a little walking around money. And so that was handy, but I turn it on once in a while just to heat it up, and it still works. But man, I'm gonna call it a night. If y'all want to hang out here and keep on going, that's fine. I'll just stop broadcasting to YouTube and leave the chat up. But
I better go. The boys have been running free flight before. The house is cleared of smoke. They haven't burnt the house down, but I better go keep an eye on them.
well, thanks for coming and keeping me company. And same goes for all you YouTube guys. Hey, we got a nightly total of 8 viewers right now. Sorry to cut y'all short, but anyway, we appreciate your contributions. We got a few of them tonight. Really, really do appreciate that. And everybody have a great weekend. And till we see you Monday, fair winds, tight lines, and we'll see y'all later. All right.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya. Good night, you guys.
Our guest.